Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. We're waking up with watches and everything you see here is in stock and for sale, so reach out to me directly. I'm Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Today, we're talking about this watch first because it is one of the watches that's always high on my list of pieces I'd like to own in the future. Launched in 2014, it hasn't aged today. It's the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Gray Side of the Moon. First thing you need to know about this gray ceramic watch is that it is entertaining day or night. Lights off, full dial, full tech, even the insert in the crown. It is ceramic, 44.25 millimeters, but under 50 lug to lug. It's just over 49 millimeters lug to lug, which means on my wrist, it wears just fine. Comfortable, well fit, short across the wrist, and super light because it's made entirely of sapphire and ceramic, both light materials. So an easy watch to wear, very comfortable, elegant, formal enough that you could wear it with formal attire and no one would bat an eye. The watch is almost completely impervious to scratches, and that's a big part of its appeal. And everything about this watch is well thought out. There's a gusset sewn into the strap. It's rubber, so you can't gouge the strap. There's a buckle that is both pin and buckle made of ceramic. So when this is under your wrist and you're moving your wrist back and forth on your keyboard all day, the most vulnerable part of your watch is also scratch-resistant ceramic. The ceramic is finished the same as if it were metal, which means diamond-tipped tools and high-precision machining is used. Only Swatch Group has the materials science mastery to be able to make the case this well with this level of distinction, this sharper break between surfaces, the polish, the satin, and the full ceramic pin buckle to complement it all. We have a box section sapphire, and then we've got a tachymetric scale. Note above the hands it says PT950. That's right, like the old steel ceramic Rolex Yachtmasters, this is a media blasted solid disc of platinum with blackened white gold hands and indices. And you can see that it's a triple register chrono, but it looks like a twin register. We have superimposed hours and minutes over at 3 o'clock. The watch has a feature that allows you to stop the seconds and halt the watch and set everything to a reference time, but there's also an intermediate position that allows you to move the hour hand independently while the seconds and the minutes remain undisplaced and the chronograph continues to run. You could set the date forward or backwards depending on which way you're crossing the international date line. Column wheel for Christmas, vertical clutch for seamless engagement, coaxial escapement, COSC chronometer movement, twin barrels, and a 60-hour power reserve. It's stacked. JLC Master Calendar Meteorite, a model that came out in late 2014 for the 2015 model year. It's part of a long succession of calendar wristwatches at JLC dating back to the 1930s. This one with the day, date, month, and moon phase. You can see that we have indices and numerals applique on a dial of meteorite, oxidized and then stabilized. The Vidmon-Staten patterns give a dramatic effect, and no two of these dials will ever be exactly alike. Only 46.6 millimeters from lug to lug, 10.8 millimeters thick. It's 39 millimeters in diameter in steel. We've got a full clasp, and we've got a JLC manufacturer automatic caliber 866. Back when JLC spared no expense, not only adjusted to 6 positions as part of the Master 1000 Hours control tested for over 41 days as a fully assembled watch, not a bare movement as with the COSC. Also a 22-carat rotor mass, not 21, not 18-carat, not a tungsten rotor. JLC was a bit more exacting about its standards back then, even on mass-produced watches like this one. Free sprung, 4 hertz, and a 43-hour automatic winding power reserve. This watch is great for him, for her. It's unisex, it's very comfortable, it's very flat, it's absolutely formal enough to be your dress watch, but in steel, automatic, with a little bit of lume actually. It is versatile enough to be your everyday carry. Taking a look at the dial, you can see it is possible to gauge the time in the dark. We're going to take a look at something very special and very exclusive now, which is a product of FP Journe. Now, I'm not an FP Journe fanboy, but that also means when I say something complimentary, it comes from a place of sincerity and great respect. And this watch is the Chronometre Souverain Black Label, part of a series created in the 2000s, the late 2000s, to build a more exclusive variant of existing Journe references. The basic CS from 2005 won the 2005 GPHG Men's Watch Prize. Black Label, adding an exclusive blackened sterling silver dial, in this case with a platinum carapace. That combination, black and platinum, exclusive to Black Label. Watches that were only available through FP Journe boutiques and espaces, and then only to prior buyers of new FP Journe watches. Since 2021, they have become much, much more selective even about who gets black label watches. So a chance to buy one like this for nothing but money, no strings attached, is a rare opportunity. White gold applique numerals, white gold hands, 40 millimeters in diameter, 8.4 thick, 47.5 lug to lug. The watch wears well on my wrist. It's got a Journe factory strap, round scale gaiter on the bottom, large rectangular scale on the top, easy to fit, platinum pin buckle. Take a look on my wrist. This would work well on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. It is very comfortable. Down the barrel, it fits well. It's nowhere near the edges of my wrist, and you can see that quite well from either side. Over the top, which exaggerates the width of the watch, I'm pulling the strap tight. You can see that the lugs are still inboard of the edge of the wrist. Now, caliber 1304 debuted on the CS, but it's probably better known from the Chronometre Bleu. Of course, Chronometre Bleu does not have the power reserve indicator. And by the way, this is a reverse marine chronometer style power reserve indicator. So it indicates 0 when fully wound for 0 hours since the last full winding, because marine chronometers or navigation clocks needed to be wound exactly 24 hours apart. You needed to know when 24 hours had elapsed since the last winding, not how many more hours the watch would run. Taking a look at the back, the movement's solid gold, 18 karat bridges and plates, twin barrels in parallel for a nice flat, consistent torque curve, 3 hertz beat rate. I believe the balance has I guess you would say a turning force or a moment of 10.10 milligrams per centimeters squared, which is a large amount for this balance. It's very heavy. So even though it's only a 3 hertz beat rate, it's massive. It makes up for its low rate. It's 6 position adjusted like the JLC and free sprung for the same reasons, shock resistance and more precise adjustment. You can also see that there's no obvious means of transmission of the energy from the barrels to the escapement. You can see them, but not the gear train between them. That runs under the dial. So you have this big open gulf between power supply and oscillator, which I really like. And you can see several different finishes here. You can see how far Journe watch decoration had come, as these bevels are now mirrored. We have stripes across the bridges, solarization on the crown wheel core, black polished screw heads, locating pegs, and then also the click spring. We have that grand orge or barley corn cut between the barrels and the escapement. And then we have 2 different sizes of engine turning, large on the escapement anchor bridge and then smaller on the base plate. A really cool watch and a very, very special, very unusual piece that you will not see twice. That said, if you do want the most iconic Journe dress watch, it's probably going to be a tourbillon, a resonance, or this guy. Launched in 2009, initially the idea was to create a more accessible entry-level FP Journe watch. I don't think anyone, Journe included, understood that in time this would become the most requested and recognized Journe watch design. It's not particularly complicated, and it doesn't break any new mechanical ground not already probed by the Chronometre Souverain, but the combination of a mirror-polished German silver dial base with translucent blue enamel on top creates this iridescent effect unlike anything else. And while at first glance you think that it's white printed, the closer you get, you can actually see it's a very creamy off-white color with undertones of yellow. The case is blue-gray tantalum, and whereas the CS was made in 38 millimeters or 40, this has only ever been made in 39, a very rarely used Journe case size. The platinum, well, I don't really find it more desirable than the tantalum. In watchmaking guys, tantalum is actually heavier than 18 karat gold by a small margin. So in terms of weight, it is between platinum and gold. And it has this incredible blue-gray glow. I can't think of any metal that just inherently looks like it's blue without any PVD or CVD coating. It's very special. And although the movement is essentially a simplified version of the CS, it does have a customized base plate. You can see on the base plate it says Chronometre Bleu rather than Chronometre Souverain. From a mechanical standpoint, the specifications are identical. It is a more wearable watch by a small margin than the 40 millimeters CS, so if you are looking for a more compact watch, they're about the same thickness, although this is a little slimmer due to the absence of the power reserve. And if you're a lady looking for a fine all-around watch, this is also going to be a little bit more accessible size-wise than the 40 millimeter Chronometre Souverain. It's certainly more iconic, that's for sure. Okay, so we're going to go from very thin to anything but. This is a monster machine. Launched in 2013 from IWC. This is the IWC Ingenieur Perpetual Calendar Digital Date Month. And frankly, the name sort of describes exactly what it is. It's based on the Ingenieur design, distantly based on the Ingenieur design, the 1832 penned by Genta in 1976. But you can see, aside from the integration of the strap into the flow of the case and the hardware fixing the bezel and the general tonneau-like profile, it's very much distant relative of that machine. Nevertheless, it is part of the extended family of Genta designs. The material is unusual, sometimes described as gamma titanium. It's properly described as titanium aluminide, so it's light like titanium and aluminum, but it's much more resistant to scratching and denting and corrosion. There's only one other watch off the top of my head that I know is made of this material. If you remember the 2019 Omega Seamaster Aquaterra Ultralight, which was a manual wind titanium golf-themed, super shock-resistant, durable watch. That watch was made of gamma titanium. There are a couple of different versions of titanium aluminide, but that watch and this watch are the only two I can think of that are made of the material. It does have a screw-down crown, and on a IWC strap that doesn't include leather, yeah, it is swimmable. 46 millimeters in diameter, it's 17.4 thick and 57 lug-to-lug, so it's a big watch. I'm going to say I'm like borderline for wearing this, but if your wrist is... Let me zoom out as far as I can. The more of my arm you see, the more it looks like this would work. It's big, but it's not ridiculous. If your wrist is 17 centimeters circumference and up, you're going to find that this is actually going to be a very good fit for you. The watch is not unnervingly light. Unlike a lot of titanium watches, the sheer size of this one means it still feels like a hefty luxury product. There's a release system here. You can see a bar inserts laterally, and then there's a release key. You just press right there. The movement is the 89802, which gives you a couple of features. First, start it up, column wheel with vertical clutch. Super sharp column wheel action. You really feel and hear it. There is luminescence, though maybe not as much as you'd like on a watch that is somewhat utilitarian. And then we have the smoked sapphire over a perpetual calendar with a digital display of date, month, and then right here, leap year. So the idea here was to create, by the way, we do have stop seconds. The idea was to create a display of the calendar that was a tribute to the IWC Josef Paul Weber watches of the late 19th century, which digitally displayed the time. So these use the Kurt Klaus mechanically programmed quick settable perpetual calendar logic, but with a digital display of date, month, and leap year. You could see that there is a quick set for that, and that they are double-digit indications. And then when you pull the crown out all the way, it activates stop seconds. Taking a quick look at the chronograph, you can see that we have a 60-minute chronograph scale, which is not universal on chronographs, and superimposed chronograph hours and minutes at the top with chronograph seconds running. Because it's a vertical clutch, you can leave the chronograph seconds running, no additional wear and tear there. It is a flyback chronograph, which means you can reset and restart without first having to stop. The 89802 is a movement with a 4-pawl IWC Paul Weber bidirectional pawl-based winding system. Did I say Paul Weber? Peloton, Albert Peloton developed that. If we want to run down our IWC history, Gerald Genta, Ingenieur style, Josef Paul Weber, display, Kurt Klaus, perpetual calendar module, and Albert, forgive me, the Albert Peloton pawl-based bidirectional winding system. But this is a 4-pawl version that's even a little bit more efficient than the 2-pawl. We have a free-sprung balance beat and weight 4 Hertz, adjusted in 5 positions, automatic winding with a 68-hour power reserve. It says so on the rotor. Not necessary, but okay. 51 joule movement. It has a lot of parts. It is really complicated. There's a lot going on here, and then it has a media-blasted pin buckle. This is a cool watch. For someone who comes from the more is more school of size, parts, and complexity, this is going to be a really cool daily driver. And for someone with the budget to match, this might also be a really cool daily driver. Launched in 2018, this is the full rose gold, full bracelet, Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph 5270 1R/1R. The /1R indicates full bracelet in rose gold. It's 41 millimeters in diameter, and it is a perpetual calendar chronograph. The watch is fairly flat, and you can see it has a concave bezel profile, dramatically stepped and fluted lugs. The bracelet, obviously an OEM-supplied piece because it includes little perforations and carve-outs that allow you to set the calendar through its pushers even when the bracelet is in place. Column wheel with lateral clutch for this chronograph. And the column wheel feel is excellent. Perpetual calendar, so it doesn't need to be adjusted until the year 2100. It can deal with irregular length months and leap years, just like the IWC. Tachymetric scale outboard rose gold hands, as well as indices. The watch features a day-night indicator here. That's basically your do not quick set danger zone indicator. Leap year phase, date, moon phase, day, and month. Around back, it's based on the 29535 architecture. You can see the black polished capped Geneva-style column wheel and the lateral clutch. Overcoil hairspring, metal, not silicon in this application. 6-position adjustment, free sprung, 4 Hertz. It does feature stop seconds. Here you can see the jumper for the chronograph minutes, instantaneous jump. 6-position adjustment, overcoil, as traditional as high horology gets. A 33 jewel movement that is much larger, better fills the case than the Lamagna-based movement that came before, and I mentioned that there is hacking seconds, and I'm going to substantiate that now. Just about all of the freshly designed modern Patek movements since 2010 have incorporated the stop seconds function. So this is something that's important to note. Patek has finally overcome that long-time limitation in its watchmaking. The movement's beautifully decorated. It's everything you'd expect. And frankly, though a dotograph is a different style, it is not better. Chronographs like this at Patek, which use a metal hairspring, a lateral clutch, and a perpetual calendar, require some of the most highly qualified watchmakers. That's right, the more highly qualified watchmakers work on metal overcoils and lateral clutch chronos. And because Patek still uses a grand lever perpetual calendar system, sometimes a little bit of metal has to be removed and parts have to be bent or shaved or tailored physically to go back together and be tuned correctly. So that too is going to require a higher level watchmaker. People have long asked, since Patek's annual calendar has more parts, why does it require a greater amount of money to buy their perpetual, but also a higher level watchmaker to assemble and regulate it? Well, it's because of that assembly and regulation. It requires feel, touch, and knowledge that the purely wheel-based annual calendar does not. In other words, it's more finicky and it takes more skill. The watch is big. It's about 49 millimeters from end link to end link, so it stretches across the wrist, but the fact that it's not thick is a real redeeming quality from an ergonomic standpoint. It's definitely got presence. It fits perfectly on my wrist. No issues here, no reservations. This is a timepiece that would wear well if your wrist is my size or larger, so 16 centimeters circumference and up. A really cool piece. You can see the bracelet's a handsome design, 5-link style. A lot of gaps between links to vent the wrist on a hot day, so not only is the style Miami, but the ergos and the ventilation of the wrist are also Miami. Double folding clasp. You can see it is a double fold with a little ceramic spring-loaded pin snap, so over time a little clamshell cannot wear those down. It will always have a snappy tolerance to its locking mechanism. But if you want the most user-friendly perpetual calendar, I'm going to opine that it is not Patek, it's Moser. Moser's system was developed back for the original Moser Perpetual in 2005 and 2006 when the company was reestablished. This right here is the Endeavour Perpetual Funky Blue, so it combines the iconic Endeavour case with the Streller Perpetual calendar, the Moser twin-barrel 7-day movement, and the company's famous Funky Blue gradient fade dial, albeit with the latest clear lacquering. So Moser strives to be distinctive by virtue of its design, not its branding, and that has been achieved here. Now, a couple of interesting things. First, you can see the watch. It's sizable at 42, but it's not terribly thick, and lug to lug, it's also not terribly broad. Taking a quick look, we have a feature rarely seen on Moser watches, which is a full folding clasp in white gold to match the case. It's rare to see these. Most of the Moser Perpetuals, even in precious metal, come with a pin buckle So someone stepped up to get a full folding clasp to minimize the chance of dropping the watch. On the wrist, because of the curvature of the case back and the tightly downturned lugs, the watch fits well on a 16 centimeter wrist and very comfortably. It is flat. It has a bezel that's concave all the way around, but you can see that the bezel flows and expands at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and it's thinner at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. It's a graceful, fluid, almost organic aesthetic. Taking a look at the watch, it's comfortable, it's flat, it's easily inboard of the edges of my wrist. So on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference, this is going to wear well. The timepiece also features a lot of functionality on its dial. Now what's fascinating is that if you pull the crown once, it won't allow you to pull it out to activate stop seconds. It halts you in the calendar setting position first. If you pull again, it will hack. So if you want to stop the watch at 60, don't wait until the seconds hand is there to pull it the first time. Pull it the once, and then let's say I want to stop the seconds hand at 15. I've pulled it once, and then when it gets there, I pull it again, just like that. I didn't do it right. Let me show you there. We'll wait till we get to 20. Pull once, and then pull again, just like that. So that's how that works. Double pull if you want to activate hacking. Power reserve indicator over at 9 o'clock. 7 days is the quoted power reserve, but if you wind it fully, it'll keep running till almost 9 days have elapsed. The idea being that 7 days is the chronometric power reserve, so for best timekeeping, you want to at least wind it every 7 days. Now taking a look underneath the primary hands, you can see this little stub index. Streller is famous for taking complicated mechanisms and making them simple to use and simple to understand. So we have 12 hours corresponding to 12 months of the year. So you're looking at the 9th hour, that's the 9th month on the 10th, that's September 10th. We're going to pull this out now. Not twice, just once. And I can adjust it in both directions. Now, a lot of people, by the way, you can see as I adjust it down, the 28 sometimes appears and people are like, well, that's not correct. It will always run correctly. It will turn itself over correctly. Sometimes when quick setting in both directions, the 28 will come into play. But the way to get around that, if you must, is just to adjust forward. It will always correctly adjust the jump of the month if you are adjusting it forward. So if you've ever seen that 28 jump that is incorrect for the month in question on a Moser Perpetual in one of my videos, don't send me angry letters about how I'm wrong or the watch is broken. I've been explaining now for at least 5 years that you don't want to set the Moser watch backwards, although it's not dangerous to the movement if you want to correctly advance the calendar. But the thing is, like, let's say I were to advance here. Pull the crown out. I don't have the nails, unfortunately. Let's say I want to go back to 4. I can adjust it in both directions. It is a bidirectional perpetual, which most aren't, and it is also a perpetual that has no nighttime danger zone. So if you adjust it at 1 a.m., you're not going to break it. You can also see how there are 2 overlapping discs that allowed Streller to use a very large numeral without making a gigantic watch that has one big date disc. So that's how it gets to be as big as it is. Turn it over. The movement's gorgeous. Now you can see this caliber here, twin barrels. They're set in golden chaton cups fixed by screws in a bridge that, although split down the center for easier maintenance, is designed to resemble a vintage 3/4 plate. And these features in combination, the entire drivetrain in chaton and the 3/4 style bridge, to emulate the style of watches made in the era of Heinrich Moser, the founder, and then later on in the 19th and early 20th century. These watches are made in Schaffhausen, which is German Switzerland. Most watches are made in French Switzerland. And so Schaffhausen, of course, the ancestral city of Heinrich Moser, and later in his career, where he established the enduring H. Moser & C brand, they are neighbors to IWC. And like IWC, they are a full manufacturer, but they go beyond. Parts like the hairspring, the escapement, in this case a 14-karat gold escapement, and the balance are made in-house by Moser. And you can see that here we have an overcoil hairspring, a 2.5 hertz beat rate. We have that gold escapement because you can minimize the use of lubricants, which improves the longevity between services. And then you have this platform system where the entire entire escapement, the balance, and the bridge lift out as a unit to be replaced by a pre-serviced unit. So when the watch goes to one of your regional Moser service centers, and yes, they do have regional centers in Europe and Asia and the Americas and the Far East. I think they might have 2 out in the Far East because it is such a distributed region. So these watches can be serviced local to you. They don't all have to go back to Switzerland. The pre-serviced module, escapement, and oscillator, that's the most service-intensive part of the watch, the most adjustment-intensive part. Pops right in, you get your watch back sooner. Streller hid the leap year for the Perpetual calendar on the case back, reckoning that you don't have to see it constantly, so you don't need to see it. If you do want to adjust it, the little pusher adjuster on the flank. The Endeavour Perpetual has always been my favorite Moser. Even as sports watches have rolled out, new models have bowed, new model lines have been created. This remains to me the heart and soul of the Moser brand. And you know, I was talking to Edouard Mélon, the CEO, years ago. He agreed this is his favorite. This is the bedrock. This is their Submariner and their Moonwatch. If you love this or any of the watches you've seen on today's show, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.